This week, as I mentioned, we will be reading from Parashat Re'eh. Re'eh marks the third of 4 sermons Moses gives to the Israelites as they are about to enter into the land of Canaan, the land without him. Moses is addressing all the assembled people with the words, Re'eh anochi noten lifnechem hayom bracha uklala. See, this day I set before you blessing and curse. Here Moses is laying before the Israelites 2 starkly different life's choices, living a life filled with blessing and meaning, or a life without. And in order to make the right choice, the Israelites need to open up their eyes and see, to really see what was around them. Of course, this is easier said than done. It is so easy to be focused on life's challenges that one can miss potential opportunities of blessings. As Rabbi Artson wrote in the Bedside Torah, in the midst of all these anxieties, and goodness knows we live in a world filled with anxieties, how are we to live? Isn't unrelenting gloom a rational response? Many scholars and philosophers, struck by life's apparent pointlessness, have counseled emotional withdrawal from the passions of living for precisely that reason. We live and we die without hope of any real breakthrough in human understanding or harmony. Is despair the most logical attitude to cultivate? Perhaps it is. I mean, let's be honest. But then again, people have never been, nor will ever be, strictly rational. We are not Spock. And life is far too variegated to fit any single response. So what does that mean for us as Jews? Is there one right way to do Judaism? Though some might argue there was only one way to do Judaism, they could not be more wrong. In the words of Rabbi Rachel Sabbath Beit Halachmi, if someone tells you that Judaism is X or Y, you should never believe them. Judaism is such a complex civilization. It is made up of religion and culture, language and land, a particular kind of peoplehood, Sephardic, Ashkenazic, good food, Ashkenazic food. In every context, different aspects of Judaism have been lived out in countless different ways. Judaism is not only complex, but is also filled with contradictory opinions, so that any single view will, by definition, fail to offer a full sense of all the possibilities. This, I admit, is what I most love about being Jewish. Yet in our current reality of increasing identity, politics, and ethical complexities, it is ever more urgent to define who we are and what, at our core, we are about as Jews. What is it that makes us who we are? Do we, in fact, know, as Rabbi Irving Yitz Greenberg and others have framed it, who and whose we are? Despite all our complexities and all the vehement reductionist discourse, however, I still believe we can say something very clear about who we are. And for those of us who are religious, about whose we are, an Am Kadosh, a people consecrated to the eternal our God, a holy people. I believe that at its core, Judaism primarily strives to achieve 2 particular goals: an ethical development of human beings and the establishment of an ethical society. For the Torah, the descendants of Abraham are a people with whom to make a sacred covenant and attempt to achieve those goals. The Israelites' preparations both to enter the land where they will be able to live out these visions and to create an ideal society are the central motifs of Deuteronomy, and a particular focus in Parashat Re'eh. In fact, at the center of the Mishnah, the 6th book, first collection of Jewish law, is Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our ancestors, the quintessential tractate about interpersonal ethics. For the Deuteronomist, who you are for much of this section of the Torah is defined by what you do. If you are God's sacred people, you observe particular ways of being in the world. If you want to create an ethical society, you take care of the needy. Well, in the vision of the Deuteronomist, the ideal society will have no needy. The authors also know that any human society will always have those who are in need. And thus we need to be very clear, as the commentator Rashi emphasizes, we must open our hands and hearts to give whatever is needed. All this, of course, is based on who we are as well. Bear in mind that you were slaves in the land of Egypt. Our relationship with God, whose we are, is in the repetition of stating that we know because of whom we were redeemed and by whose Torah we seek to live. So the Deuteronomist insists we show that we love God through particular ethical and ritual practices, by resisting other practices, and only engaging in practices of a sacred existence expressed in how we consume food, how we take care of others, how we protect the land, and how we remember our blessings. This section of the Torah covers an incredibly wide range of behaviors that serve to create and maintain identity. From understanding the blessings of making the right choices about living in the promised land, to vigilantly choosing to worship the one God, to partaking of food of the earth and eating of the animal kingdom with limitations, to taking care of the needy. This section of Deuteronomy is laser focused on behaviors that will ensure the Israelites will maintain a particular identity in order to achieve larger goals. To be God's people means to find ways in everyday behaviors of eating, walking, sleeping, teaching, plowing the fields, that acknowledge with humility whose we are through what we do, which is who we are. Choosing the good over and over again, as this section repeats like a chorus, defines each of us as being part of this particular Israelite nation. Other nations have their particular way of being, and we have ours, lived out through the mitzvot of how we treat each other, how we treat the earth, how we treat animals, and how we respond to God. What is often framed, according to Judaism, through the lenses of Deuteronomy as a tension between the particular and the universal is resolved, because the particular and the universal are in fact unified. They're Einstein's unified theory of Jewish ethics. It is our particularity that our universal values are lived out. In being particular, we are in fact being universal. Judaism in all its complexity is above and beyond all about being good, about knowing what we have, that we have free will, and at every moment can engage in choosing life and that which is good. Choosing that which sustains human society. There is always the possibility of blessing. There is always the possibility of curse. Much of what happens, however, is actually because of what we choose. Identity is not only made up of the family and the tribe into which we were born, or the family and tribe in which we choose to reside, but also shaped by the ethical choices we make as individuals. Collective identity, however, is determined by the ritual and ethical practices we engage in as a community, which in turn establishes who and whose we are to the greater scheme of history. Every day, we face countless choices. What to eat, what to wear, what show to watch, paper or plastic, Royals, Cardinals, Cubs. And there are nearly as many ways to do Judaism. And like these other choices, how we choose to express our Judaism becomes a reflection of ourselves and our community. These choices are not always easy. But when we choose for the good, we're always choosing blessing, gratitude, and joy. What what we cannot and should not do is allow others to define or make those choices for us. For as it says in the beginning of Re'eh Anochi noten lifnechem hayom bracha uklakla. See, this day I have set before you blessing and curse. Blessing or curse. The choice is yours. Or to borrow from Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, choose wisely. Shabbat Shalom.